a doctor can be a doctor without board certification.
Correct.
And they can operate on you and do all sorts of surgeries?
All sorts of surgeries.
You can do a heart transplant.
In theory, yes.
Board certified plastic surgeon. That's very important and very important for everybody in your audience.
That means that you have been trained from medical school, completing your years of training of general surgery, and then finishing a program that it's accredited in plastic surgery.
My name is Hector Salazar-Reyes. I practice cosmetic plastic surgery.
I'm so excited to be here with Dr. Salazar.
Dr. Hector Salazar is a board-certified plastic surgeon in La Jolla.
I was summa cum laude, finished with the highest scoring of all history of the medical school.
How many surgeries have you done in your career?
More than 5,000-6,000 surgeries.
To see their satisfaction, how their life has changed, that is what keeps me going.
If you have your own operating room, it's not certified, you can do whatever you want in there.
It's not illegal, and it's fine until something goes wrong.
Why do doctors do this if they're not board certified?
Well, I would say,
Well, I'm very excited to have Hector Salazar in the studio today. Hector, welcome.
thank you so much. Thanks, Vinny, for this opportunity. I love to talk to you.
Yeah, likewise. And well, we've just been drinking a bottle of 2013 Macassan, a Pinot from Sonoma. What do you think?
I think it's fantastic. I would say that out of the New World Pinot Noir wines, this is truly representative of what Sonoma can offer and can rival some of those red Burgundies.
Yeah,
easily.
absolutely.
Any
It's
day.
spectacular.
No, I mean, the complexity was great.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. As you can see, it's nearly done. So we've been having a good lunch chatting about it. Hector, we've become friends over the past couple of years. You living in San Diego, and I really thought your story is really interesting, and I wanted to have you on my show because I like a diversity of guests. And you're a plastic surgeon, and you are one of the plastic surgeons at the biggest plastic surgery group in Southern California?
Right. La Jolla Cosmetic.
Loyal Cosmetic. And what's I think really fascinating is the amount of stories you probably have to tell. So we're going to jump in there today. But before we go down that rabbit hole, I wanted to start off with just getting a background about where you grew up and how did you know you want to be a plastic surgeon one day, and what was that path like for you?
Well, that brings memories right away. I would say, Vinny, that it's one of those hard to think or how to believe that when I was 9 years old, I kind of learned about the fact that I wanted to become a plastic surgeon, and specifically specifically about to become a cosmetic plastic surgeon. I remember we went to the airport to pick up my grandmother, and literally after a month that she was out of town, when we picked her up, and I looked at her and I said, "You left looking older, and you came back looking so young." And I said that in front of my parents, in front of and more people. And then I still remember that moment, how shocking it was to see. I mean, she had a facelift done, and like her eyelids operated, and she looked such a the same. She was the same person, but looked more beautiful in a way. So that caught my attention. And then I started talking to her, probably this is like a week after, and she actually shared with me what she had done. And I said, I that's exactly what I want to do. So starting there, I said, I'm gonna, we all have dreams when we're kids, and we think like we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. I want to become like, I don't know, like a football player or something like that. But then since then, that moment, I knew I wanted to become a plastic surgeon. So this is when I was 9. I grew up here in the Baja California region. I pretty much going back and forward between Tijuana, San Diego. I come from a family of lawyers. Both my parents are lawyers. And I thought for a second that I don't get me wrong. I think I could have become a good lawyer. And I like law, and I like going to court.
Funny story. Me too.
Oh, it comes in the rest of the family.
No, that was my default.
There you go.
If I didn't get into tech, I was going to become a lawyer.
And I think that's why we have great conversations every time we meet.
Well, and we love wine.
Right. So I think that puts it together in a nice way. So I thought it was like, too many lawyers already in the family. We're gonna really pursue our dream and become a plastic surgeon.
Okay, so you finished up high school, you applied to college. Which schools did you apply to?
All right, so let me tell you about that. So when I finished college, and it's one of those different ingredients in life. When I finished high school, I talked to my parents. I studied Italian for 4 years during high school, but like on my own, outside of high school. And when I was getting close to finish high school, I spoke to my parents and I talked to them that I really wanted to perfection my Italian. That's at least what I thought at that moment. And I said, you know what? Let me go to Italy and study more Italian. And actually, they agreed. Um, and I mean, I finished high school. I went to Florence. I lived in Florence for a year, and I was studying 4 hours of Italian every day. I took it very seriously. I don't know if you know this from me that I'm a very academic guy, and
Absolutely.
I was like top. I was
How
top
do you go to
top.
Florence to study? I mean, that place is so beautiful.
Right.
I would be just going out all the time.
So that's why it was like 4 hours a day. I was like
Yeah.
4 hours a day from 9 till like 1 p.m. That's exactly what I was doing. Pure Italian. After that, it was like museums, wine appreciating
Okay.
courses, all that,
Yeah.
and meeting new friends. I went to a school that it was a it was a business school that they offered Italian lessons.
So this is after high school.
This after high school, right after high school. I was 18.
Okay, so you're 18. You're just doing this for a year or so.
I was doing that for a year,
Okay.
and then I came back, and then when I pursue, I said like, okay, so now after that year, I learned Italian. I took a couple of exams, and I have my certification of knowledge of the Italian language, and then I went to medical school, and I went to medical school in the University of Baja California. So that's right. I mean, we're here, we're in La Jolla, we're in San Diego. You're talking about across the border, maybe from where we are at. If we would drive to that medical school, it would take us 40 minutes without traffic.
Okay.
So I went to medical school in Mexico. That actually a little bit later, and we can talk about it, made my road a little bit bumpy or a little bit more complex, and we can.
Well,
talk about
let's go through this. So,
well, in the sense of, so the thing is, University of Baja California has one of the most well-recognized medical schools in Mexico, and the way they're judged, the way they are measured, the way they measure that is, if you want, let's say you want to become a gastroenterologist or you want to become a nephrologist or whatever specialty you're pursuing, when you apply, did you get into it? And that's how you can judge a medical school. And that's the way they judge medical schools in Mexico. So one of the most prestigious medical schools is University of Baja California. And I finished, after 5 years of medical school there, I finished with the highest scoring of all history, the highest scores of all history of the medical school.
that's incredible.
So that's 37 years of history when I finished, and I was summa cum laude, University of Baja California, well celebrated. I won Medical Student of the Year in Mexico, and I got an award by the Secretary of Education in Mexico City, and so.
That's incredible. I didn't know that. This is impressive.
Well, and you brought it up, so that's why we're talking about it.
No, I'm enjoying this. This is fantastic.
So at that point, you're like some sort of think about like an academic level.
Yeah.
Of course, we were talking about this big, but you're talking about like, oh my God, I mean, like I've done so well. I put out the effort and everything, and then you become like, let's say, an academic superstar. But then I want to pursue my specialty. I want to do surgery and then eventually plastic surgery.
So just for people listening, this is to become a doctor.
Just to become a doctor.
Just to become a doctor.
Just to become
but you
a
were the
doctor.
best ever.
At
that school.
Yes, at that medical school.
And now you want to specialize
And
in
I want to
plastic-
specialize in plastic surgery.
Okay.
So in order for you to specialize in plastic surgery, you can follow couple of different routes. You can either do 6 years or 8 years. 6 years of whatever it's called, integrated plastic surgery, or 8 years, which is 5 years of general surgery and 3 years of plastic surgery. And then I started applying, and then you were facing reality in which, I mean, again, I mean, you can come from a different background, from different medical schools, from different countries, from different schools of business or whatever other topic we're talking about. And then you go to a different country, and then they're going to be skeptical about your credentials.
So
right?
you try to get into the US.
So right. I mean, like I want to pursue the rest of my medical training, my surgical training, and my plastic surgery training in the US.
Okay.
Because honestly, I think we have here in America the best training for doctors around the world, no question.
Mhm.
I mean, everybody can say or talk about our health system or this or that, and everybody can have little complaints here and there. But in reality, the way we train here in America is spectacular. The way we train is the right way to train.
What's the difference?
Well, I would say the amount of hours, how structured it is, how competitive it is, how much research is done, our governing entities, the board that certifies each specialty is very strict. So it's a little bit more lax in other places, or it's a little shorter, you're training in other countries. But over here, it's the real deal, I would say. And that's the reason why we get people and that they come and train from all around the world.
Mhm.
So hard for you to hear that you're going to go to the South Pole to train and something.
sure.
That's the reason I would use South Pole, is because they didn't want to mention any other country. But
So okay, so you're trying to apply to come to go to, is it a university or is it a hospital? It's like a
how does it work?
how does it work?
So the way it works is like different universities have different hospitals
Okay.
or affiliated hospitals, and there are also some hospitals that are as prestigious that they rarely need any university
Mhm.
to have training programs. I mean, you can talk about hospitals such as the Mayo Clinic, for instance,
Yes.
right? There's not a university of anywhere, right?
Sure.
It's just the Mayo Clinic.
Yeah.
So you have institutions that are like so solid that they do not need another academic background other than their own training system. So as I was coming back, it was quote unquote a struggle. While you're I don't know, and I always think about, like, if you go, and I'm going to give away my age, but you think about like I don't know, musical groups, like you think about ABBA or stuff like that. They come from Sweden and they come to the States,
Yeah.
and then like they come and conquer over here, right?
Yeah.
And then like, oh my God, now okay, so we like your quality, we like your music, or something like that. That's exactly what I had to go through and prove myself, and prove to everybody that I was as competitive as the best candidates that were trained in medical schools here in America. Again, even though I was an American citizen, but actually trained in Mexico as a doctor. And so what I did is I did a postdoctoral fellowship in pure plastic surgery. So I did research for a year in Houston at Baylor College of Medicine for a year, purely doing plastic surgery research to demonstrate that I was serious about it. And I really, really want to pursue my dream and become a plastic surgeon eventually. So I invested into that year, had many, many research protocols. Again, that shows people that not only you have the academic background,
Yep.
but you're really serious about what you're looking for.
Okay, so you got that done in Houston, then you applied to where?
So then after that, I said, I started applying for general surgery again to get those first 5 years in general surgery. Funny enough, general surgery, for like people that are not related to the medical world, general surgery, you're operating, like, I don't know, you're removing the gallbladder, you're operating on the liver, you're operating on the colon, the stomach, sometimes the esophagus, it's a completely different world, but that gives you the basis for you to train into other parts of surgery.
Was this in the ER or?
Well, you would be a lot in contact with the ER, and then you would take patients to the operating room. And then watch those patients, how they recover and everything. So those are 5 years in which, you do trauma surgery, you do colorectal surgery, you basically rotate through different areas of surgery, and then at the end you're a general surgeon. So I ended up going
So pause there for a second.
Yeah.
Tell us some crazy stories from the ER.
All right. Well, many, I would say, in terms of yeah, you're digging deep. Yeah. So, for instance,
Like something like you just never expect people, the silly shit that people do.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, okay, yeah, you got it. So, when you're part of a trauma team,
Yeah.
and you're a general surgeon in America, and that's something that changes in different countries,
Sure.
but in America, the leader of a trauma team in the ER is a general surgeon.
Sure.
Because what can kill a patient during the first hour, that golden hour where you can save a life of a patient, mainly can be taken care of by a general surgeon.
Mhm.
And so here, as in your training of 5 years as general surgeon, at the end, you're going to be leading that trauma team. and you get to see the craziest stories in which you see when you're working at a trauma team, you have a big team of doctors. You're talking about 5 attending surgeons. You're talking about 20 residents in training. You're talking a big ancillary team with like 20 nurses, physical therapists, dietitians. I mean, it turns out that all of a sudden you're in a room every single morning presenting what came overnight. And you have a team of almost like 60 people listening, because everybody in the team needs to meet what were the traumas that were coming overnight. And there is when you start to hear crazy things, as such and such patient was riding his motorcycle at 60 miles an hour on a road, and then he was hit in the face by a vulture. And you start,
Is it real?
yes.
Oh my God.
So, I mean, and those, some of those stories can be tragic, and some of those stories can turn into some sort of a comedy or a bad comedy. I mean,
well, let's not go into the tragedy stuff. But how about a story about someone being really stupid but they survived?
so people that were saying it and talking about you know that you said like, well, this and you got to take into account that this comes from a different time, but you would say that such and such patient it was already 8 p.m. on a Sunday, a Super Bowl Sunday, and during Super Bowl they were having some trouble with the TV signal, so antennas, right? I mean, you probably remember some of that.
Yeah.
So as they had
So
to,
this is like the 90s.
so there's like kind of the 90s, and then they had to go to the roof to start fixing his antenna
And
after
get
he
struck
had
by lightning?
all the beers that he had like during the Super Bowl, and then he ended up slipping, and everybody's like, my God, I mean, who thinks it's a good idea to go and fix an antenna after a Super Bowl Sunday?
Yeah.
So you hear, and yeah, he did. I mean, he stayed at the hospital for almost a month, but he did well and he survived. But you have to go through all that. And again, of course, it has nothing to do with liposuction, breast augmentation, facelift, all that stuff that I do right now. But that actually makes you a better surgeon once you have experienced all that. Okay. So I did that for 5 years. My internship, I did it in University of Illinois, Chicago, and then I went back to Houston, and then in Houston I spent 4 more years finishing my general surgery at Houston Methodist Hospital. It's one of those institutions that they're so well renowned for several reasons. It's like the largest private hospital in the world, as you can imagine, and everything's bigger in Texas. So in Houston, there's like the largest children's hospital in the world, the largest cancer center in the world. That's MD Anderson. I was rotating at MD Anderson as a general surgeon, so dealing with cancer patients over there. And then that's it. I said, it's over. General surgery, good. I'm not going to be a general surgeon. I know what I want to become is a plastic surgeon. So apply all over the country to go to get trained as a plastic surgeon. And then I was fortunate enough to get where my first choice was, which was to stay in Houston and train as a plastic surgeon. Plastic surgeons, they can do different things. They can do reconstructive surgery. They can do hand surgery. They could do burn surgery. They can do cosmetic surgery. Yeah. And in Houston, the program where I trained, it was very, very strong in cosmetic surgery, meaning aesthetics, meaning like all the beauty, right? Yeah. What we understand when we think about like a plastic surgery.
Hollywood style.
The Hollywood style. And the program where I train actually is where the silicone gel implant was invented. Okay. So that's for you and your audience to kind of see how hardcore cosmetic surgery my training program was. So it was all about cosmetics.
So congrats, you made it that far. How did you get yourself down to San Diego?
Well, once I finished my training, I actually always knew that I wanted to come back to San Diego. Okay. San Diego, I think, is where I grew up, where I'm pretty much my family, my friends are. And after living in Florence, I lived also a year in Mexico City. I lived in Chicago. I lived in Houston. And I can tell you, San Diego is the best place.
You
on
know,
earth
it's the
to
most
live.
expensive city in America right now to live.
That's what we are hearing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and
true,
well,
though.
I mean, it's I got to consider it like as a club. You
Yeah.
want to.
Well, yeah, the thing is, we're already, for someone else trying to move,
it's very
this is
difficult.
causing the problem. Like, there's just too many people trying to get into San Diego. It's become such an amazing vibe place to build companies. The food scene has become incredible. Yeah,
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, so diverse, so good. All these Michelin stars like falling here.
Addison's down the road. Yeah.
Oh
It's great.
yeah, exactly. So
It's the only 3-star Michelin in the whole of Southern California as well.
we have it here.
Yeah.
Addison.
So it's great. So okay. So you decided to move back here.
Let's move back.
And what did you do? Start your own practice?
So yes, somehow I knew I wanted to come back to San Diego. San Diego, of course, is also it's very popular for plastic surgeons because we
And we're an hour and a half from Hollywood, so I'm sure you have a lot of Hollywood patients.
and people that actually drive from LA and come and see me, and that happens. I mean, Southern California, plastic surgery is very.
Your reputation precedes you, so
Thank you, sir.
so I'm sure you have a ton of Hollywood patients.
Cheers to that. I'm
Cheers,
gonna say cheers with water
Cheers.
now, but.
I've actually seen some of your Hollywood patients post videos on Instagram.
Posted, but the only thing is, the problem is I can't talk about it.
I know. So, but like they promote you,
Right.
They're like, and the one girl, she was like, I think you got your practice reshaded on Instagram, but she was basically saying how amazing you are, and and that must be great for you because the referral that you get from the Hollywood scene, I guess, is great.
No, honestly, and that's still, even though, you see like social media now, you see, but actually that word of mouth, like reputation, that like people talking to their friends and people referring you more patients. That's actually when I see my patients, that's what I tell them. I tell them, I'm sorry, but because they say like, thank you so much for my result. This is fantastic. And it's like, I already told a friend about it. I said like, you know what? That's the best compliment that you can give me.
Absolutely.
If you really want to tell a friend and then that friend comes in, that's a lot. I mean, because they're really trusting you with their body.
Well, it's interesting because your business is very different. Like, so now,
yes.
So you started your own practice, and then you eventually moved on to joining La Jolla Cosmetic. And,
yes.
And I imagine there's lots of good business reasons for that as well, because one of the problems I can see you having is that you obviously and most doctors and plastic surgeons have to respect patient confidentiality.
Yeah.
So you can't go around talking about like most businesses. You go to their website. You're like, here's here's logos of all the companies that use my product. Here's this is how I promote myself. Like Google's a customer and Amazon's a customer and whatever, right?
And you're private.
You
say
can't
it,
you
right?
can't do that,
right?
So what do you do?
It's funny because I
and I want to hear the experience of building your own practice and then switching to one that's a different one. So
absolutely, and you see, like for instance, we were talking about lawyers and lawyers. They brag about one. This was my first case that I closed for $1 billion. We settled for $500 million.
We sued Pfizer,
right?
And whatever, right?
So they could talk about it, and we
can't.
can't.
That's public record, and nothing you do is public record.
You could be at a wedding, and maybe you've operated on a couple of people that are sitting at your table.
And you have to just sit there and sip your wine.
Exactly.
You can't even pretend you know them.
Exactly, and that's something that I say. Like I said, like nice to meet you to some of my patients because where do you know him from?
Yeah,
and it's like you don't want to run into that.
Okay. So you actually do that. So when you bump into a patient in a public area,
and they say like, "Oh, let me introduce you to such and such," and actually, I mean, the only reason why I know her is because I did her abdominoplasty, her tummy tuck, her breast augmentation, and I just smile and I just hold hands and say, "Nice meeting you," and shake her hands, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then if they say like, "Oh my God, come on, Dr. Salazar, we know," okay, so if they start opening up, then it's fine. But if not, and I have no idea, I've never seen her before, and that happens a lot.
That's very commendable. It's fantastic.
No, it's part of the game. It's part of the game. Even sometimes, I mean, there are some patients that come in and they're like friends with my wife, and then they say, "Oh, please say hello to Ingrid," and I say, I will, but where did I see you? Did we see each other here in the office, or were we at Whole Foods or other supermarket or somewhere?
Yeah.
Because and they say like, "Oh no, she already knows that it was coming," and it's like, okay, but confidentiality goes up to the fact that I go back home and I don't talk to my family. I don't talk. I mean, at dinner, I don't say like, "Oh, guess who I operated on."
Yeah.
Going back to your question. I knew, and yeah, from the business perspective, I think it's important, especially for other plastic surgeons or for other doctors or for people that are entrepreneurs in business. I think that it's important for you to, as you're planning opening a business, or in my case, as I was planning my comeback to San Diego, to know and understand the market. And I grew up here all my life. I know how important and how good plastic surgery is here in San Diego, and specifically cosmetic surgery, again, Southern California. Same thing in Orange County, same thing in LA. But at the same time, San Diego is not New York. You're not talking about like 14 million people, 20 million people. So in a way, I knew that San Diego did not need another plastic surgeon, right? I mean, right now you're talking about our census of plastic surgeons here in San Diego that goes anywhere, fluctuates from 80 to 90 plastic surgeons. In Houston, I remember back then when I was still there, you're talking about like 120, 130 plastic surgeons and the entire metropolitan area.
How big is Houston in terms of?
So Houston is the fourth largest city in America. So and San Diego, and maybe that has changed.
Well, I don't know what we are, but we're like 4 to 5 million people right now in the metro.
Right.
And Houston, I'm guessing,
probably like
7 or 8.
around 7, 8. And so I was thinking, I was like, okay, so there's not a need for another plastic surgeon, but I know the city and I know exactly where there is a need for a plastic surgeon. I would say my forte, as I was during my training, was, as I was sharing with you, cosmetic surgery. My second forte was breast reconstruction. In my program, we were doing a lot of breast reconstruction. So I was thinking, what can I?
Is this, when you say reconstruction, is this from like injuries or cancer?
Cancer, exactly. Okay. Mainly like, lady undergoes a mastectomy for breast cancer, and then you literally start from scratch. You start like literally with flat chest on one side or both sides, depending, and a line.
Yeah.
And meaning a scar, and you have nothing. So you have to develop that skin envelope. You have to stretch the skin. That takes maybe 1 surgery or 2 surgeries. Then you go in and you change that expander that you place in for an implant. Then you start reconstructing the nipple. You start reconstructing the areola and all that. So I said, okay, so that's one of my tools that I know how to do, and I know how to do it well. And I also have this other tool, which is cosmetic surgery. Yeah. But if I want to actually be able to come back to San Diego, gets a little more complicated, because it's not only the business side of things. As plastic surgeons, and then we can touch a little bit about this, board certified plastic surgeon. That's very important, and very important for everybody.
Yeah,
in your audience.
What is that? I've heard that a lot. And
so that means that you have been trained, that you have like checked all the boxes, starting from medical school, going into general surgery, or completing your years of training of general surgery, and then finishing in a program that it's accredited in plastic surgery. And then during your training, you also check the boxes on all different cases that you had to log in, and so you are appropriately trained. And then imagine that you go to you go to a university, and then you graduation date, but that's not enough. So now that you've been you graduated, now we want to observe you practicing for the first year. So in order for us to observe you practicing the first year, it's not that, you can do only this type of cases. You have to do a wide variety of cases of plastic surgery. You have to operate in different hospitals. You have to reach a certain number of cases during that first year so we can actually evaluate your training. And every single case that you're doing is being monitored by the American Board of Plastic Surgery. You can't hide it. You have to get signatures, notarized signatures by the hospital. You have to get like all the anesthesia records. So then you're going to have like this professors reviewing all your cases. And then once you pass a written examination that it's like 8 hours, if you pass that, then you earn the right to go on a weekend to the oral board examination. And what you're going to do there is you're going to answer a bunch of questions. They're going to listen to you, how you think as a plastic surgeon. And not only that, they're going to pick some of your cases, especially guess the ones they pick, wherever they find like a little, the patient had an infection. This patient had like a little. And if you operate enough, you're going to get some of those complications. And that's something that you have to talk to your patients about. So they pick those tough cases and they nailed it down. You're in a room like kind of the way we are, but not as friendly, and definitely like no Marquesan, a wine between the two. And it's like two professors and you answering to all their questions.
Okay.
And then they certify you as a plastic
And
surgeon.
then is it a recertification every year or a couple
every
years?
10 years.
Every 10
So
years.
every 10 years you have to recertify.
So help me understand this. So it sounds like a doctor can be a doctor without board certification.
Correct. In America, it's possible.
And they can operate on you and do all sorts of surgeries?
All sorts of surgeries. So the way it's
Wow.
the way it's in the States, it's, I mean, as long as you're a doctor, you can perform everything that a doctor can perform. Meaning,
So you're an MD.
so you're MD.
You can do a heart transplant.
You, in theory, yes. In theory, you can do a heart transplant. In theory, I mean, you can deliver babies. And you're like, oh, no, but you're a plastic surgeon. So the thing is, and what we face sometimes in medicine, and that's a problem, is specialties or other specialties invading what other specialties do. And that's because, of course, there's an economic interest. So you can have a primary care doctor performing liposuction and claiming that they're a cosmetic surgeon. And also we'll talk about some of that other certifications that are out there. But if it's like, I mean, classic that I've heard, I mean, in social venues or even some patients that come to me is like, oh, my gynecologist did my C-section and also did my tummy tuck after I delivered a baby. And you're like what? I'm sorry. What? I mean, I don't deliver babies, but I do tummy tucks. But why the doctor that delivers babies does like tummy tucks? And that's not technically illegal. But the thing is that if you're not board certified and what you're performing is outside of your spectrum of practice or spectrum of training, then if something goes wrong, then you're going to be toasted. Then if you go to a courtroom and the only thing you have to answer is, I'm sorry, Dr. Salazar, how many heart transplants have you done? Right? It's like, no. I mean, I do a lot of it.
Why do doctors do this if they're not board certified?
Well, I would say, one, it's lack of ethics. Two is that they think it's easy. And three is that there's an economic interest. I mean, if you're not making enough as within a certain specialty, you're going to think like, oh, you know what? Why don't you? I mean, I can tell you there's a neuromaxillofacial surgeon that he does breast augmentations. He places implants, and not dental implants, but like breast implants.
Wow.
And I've seen many complications coming from him. And the problem is that they take advantage of the population.
So this is the story where you hear these stories about this girl had a Brazilian butt lift or whatever, and she died. Like I've seen those stories before. And it's because they're using non-board certified.
Exactly.
In most cases.
In most cases. So as we were talking about, right? I mean, like anybody who plays the game can lose, right? I mean, if you think about it that way. Yeah. But of course, if it's better to play the game with someone that knows what they're doing, has all the qualifications, and as we were talking about, that it's board certified, which translates into you are a responsible surgeon. You follow the rules. You went through all that training. You went through all that exhaustive examination process that you're demonstrating that you're a safe surgeon, that you care about the safety of your patient. So starting there, that's a guarantee that things are going to go the right way. Then if you try to make it more affordable for patients, you can start cutting corners. So you can start saying like, well, instead of using an anesthesiologist, I'm going to use a nurse anesthetist. Well, you know what? No, not even that. Why don't we just do it all under local anesthesia? And I give you the anesthesia here. So you see how you're like, okay.
Slippery slope.
Exactly. And that way, if you start cutting corners, you say like, oh, instead of me doing your surgery in a Quad A certified, meaning the best certification for an outpatient surgery center, the same that hospitals have, that's the one we have at La Jolla Cosmetic. Instead of doing that, why don't we just like not get certified, because that costs money, and then I can pass that to my patients, and now my surgery is going to be very cheap and affordable. And then is when you
get
start
what you pay for at that point, right?
What is that?
Yeah, the patient gets what they pay for.
Exactly. And now they're risking it. And you know what? Maybe if like in 500 surgeries that doctor is performing,
maybe he can get away with that, but you don't want to be the
one.
501.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, there's like nothing is prepared for if something goes wrong. He doesn't have privileges at the hospital. And what that means is, so if I go to the hospital as a plastic surgeon, board certified, they're going to check out all my credentials. And in order for me to get privileges at the hospital to do what a plastic surgeon does, it's a very also exhaustive investigation kind of thing from Scripps or Sharp or Kaiser or whichever hospital you belong to or you have privileges on. If you have your own operating room and your own operating room is not certified, you can do whatever you want in there, right? And again, it's not illegal, but then you maybe so let's say that you're a facial plastic surgeon, but then you're also doing a Brazilian butt lift, and it's fine until something goes wrong. So I would say that it's very tough, even for doctors or even for friends of doctors to understand all the intricacies. And I would say we take that responsibility. I mean, I think you know that I'm part of the patient education committee of the American Society of Plastic Surgeons. And I feel that it's part of our responsibility to tell the general public, to tell everybody, to guide them through that decision-making process.
So what would you say to people who are out there considering plastic surgery for any number of reasons? What are the top 3 things that they need to check before choosing a surgeon? Oh,
fantastic. I would say, number one, if you're looking for plastic surgery, make sure that your surgeon is a plastic surgeon, right? Because they could be what they call like a cosmetic surgeon.
Okay.
And that could be a training.
So cosmetic surgeon is different from plastic surgeon.
So plastic surgeon, you already heard the story, like, the 5 years and 3 years plus medical school. So like in
so
my
what is a
case,
cosmetic surgeon then?
So a cosmetic surgeon.
As a layperson, I had no idea.
Right, because you say like, and you, Hector, you just said that you do cosmetic surgery,
exactly.
right? So you heard all the years, and in my case, it's 17 years after high school to be able to say I'm a plastic surgeon. So that guarantees all the training. When you talk about a cosmetic surgery residency, a cosmetic surgery specialty, then that training is not going to be that exhaustive. It's not going to have all those years, and it can be very much abbreviated. But then you go but then after you're done as a cosmetic surgeon, what do you do? Well, so they get certified by the Board of Cosmetic Surgery, okay? And that can be tricky. So
you can be board certified in cosmetic surgery.
Exactly. But
it's a different type of...
It's different type of certification, and it's not as exhaustive.
So what's the cosmetic surgeon's domain of expertise?
So their domain of expertise, the problem is that it's so not regulated that they can have or undergo training for a month or a year, as long as they pass some examination that their board asked them to do. They can become cosmetic surgeons, and they can claim, I can do liposuction, I can do tummy tucks, I can do what a plastic surgeon does.
I'm a little confused here, so I really want to dig in here. How do you know when to go to a cosmetic surgeon versus when do you go to a plastic surgeon?
I'm sorry, but I mean, the training that we have is so superior from like when compared to a cosmetic surgeon that I wouldn't recommend anybody. Go to a pure cosmetic surgeon. So there's a governing.
But what is their purported domain of expertise? What's the differentiation?
Well, so that the differentiation that they claim is that they know all about beauty and that they know how to operate on that. But in reality, the background of their training has nothing to do with the background of the training that a plastic surgeon has.
What is their background? What are they trained in?
In cosmetic operations or beauty operations, but there's nothing that withstands what they are claiming that they're trained in. So just for you to understand this part. So there is a governing entity in the United States, and that's called the American Board of Medical Specialties. So the American Board of Medical Specialties, if you're an internal medicine doctor, the American Board of Medical Specialties governs the American Board of Internal Medicine, governs the internal. So whatever the American Board of Medical Specialties recognizes as a specialty, it's valid. So the American Board of Medical Specialties recognizes the American Board of Plastic Surgery. The American Board of Medical Specialties does not recognize the American Board of Cosmetic Surgery.
So it's an unrecognized sort of arm of medicine.
So if you and I tomorrow start creating the American Board of Right Nipple, and we certify surgeons in the right nipple, it's not illegal. But who are we to create that board? But we can charge some fees, and we can you're going to have this examination, and I'm going to give you this recognition, this title, and that's, I mean, it's not recognized by the governing entity, but it's not illegal at the same time.
Why not?
Because you and I can create a club.
It's just a rubber stamp, and it's only worth what it's worth based upon who's putting the stamp on.
Correct, because it's not recognized by the American Board of Medical Specialties.
Okay.
And there is, and that's, I mean, it's a topic. There's conflict about it, and it's funny because
it confuses the layperson.
It confuses the layperson.
We have no idea what this stuff means.
And
when someone says they're a doctor, they're a surgeon, they're certified by a board, like, how do you expect? It's like the same, when the banks collapsed earlier this year. Like, what you mean? Silicon Valley, my money wasn't safe in Silicon Valley Bank. It's supposed to be FDIC insured. Oh, it's not. Like,
Exactly.
They did all this weird stuff with the bonds.
And
people don't check this stuff. No. Like when you put money in a bank, do you go ask them for their financial statements and go look at their balance sheet?
Would you buy them?
That.
Exactly.
We expect the government to regulate that stuff.
Correct. And when you see and there's also the devil's in the details. So you see how, for instance, doctors that are certified by the American Board of Cosmetic Surgery, they cannot claim that they're board certified. So in the wording, they can say that they're board certified by the American Board of Cosmetic Surgery, but they cannot say such and such board certified, because that supposedly creates confusion, because the only real board certification comes from the American Board of Plastic Surgery.
Okay.
But in reality, as you're saying, I mean, there is all this confusion around it, and it's a little bit of wording here, a little bit of wording there. But in reality, think about the fact that if it's kind of like what in any other thing, if it sounds too good to be truth, I mean, if you're going to get a mummy makeover for only $3,000, $5,000, you're cutting corners somewhere.
Yeah. And that's often in the training.
So, right. So,
which is where you don't want to cut the costs, right? You want to have the best trained surgeons. Okay. So let's go back to the top three things. So
top three things.
The first thing you're saying is make sure it's a board certified plastic surgery.
Yes.
Not cosmetic surgery.
Cosmetic surgery, okay. or any other board, right?
Yeah.
The second thing I would say is to go and see the results of that doctor. I mean, I know that it's, as we were talking about, privacy is very important. Some patients, as long as they're things are de-identified, like neck or the breast, or they allow the surgeon give specific permission to publish the results, or either sometimes to share the results in the clinic of that doctor. So I think that's a second thing that is really, really important for patients to look at the work of the doctor with an ample criteria, because sometimes as a surgeon, you're providing the patient with what they're looking for. So it's important that if they see a patient that had large breast implants, it's not the doctor's style, right? We put large breast implants all the time. You also keep on swiping through those results. You're going to see people with natural results or whatever they're looking for. But that's the second thing, to look at the work of their surgeon. And nowadays, something that's really, really important are reviews. Right? Because it's you go to a restaurant, you check on some of the reviews, and I know, that you're going to be finding some haters.
Where do you go to see reviews?
Just go online. Literally go online. I mean,
is there any site that you recommend people check out?
I would say Real Patient Ratings is great, because those are real, verified.
So is it realpatientratings.com or something?
Go to Real Patient Ratings. Just type that on Google, and you're going to be able to find that.
Okay.
And those are verified reviews. And then you have just even through Yelp or Google. And normally, don't be afraid if you see, you find a surgeon that has 500 5-star and 1 or 2 1-stars, and then a 3-star. And sometimes if you actually go and read, I went there and I had to wait for 15 minutes for me to be seen by the doctor.
Well, that's the same problem with Amazon. you go in there and you look at some of these ratings, and I always go and look for the negative ratings, and I look for what people are saying in negative ratings, and then some of them is just stupid. Like even on Yelp, you go to Yelp, and I look at restaurants, and I go, okay, well, let's have a look at rank them, and then you take the top 2 or 3, and you'll see there's like a distribution of stars. I always go to the 1-star reviews, and most of the time it's, this place is too expensive, it's not worth the money, blah, blah, blah. And then the 5 stars are like, we had an amazing experience, it was a good time. And you basically, I make the decision that, look, I'm not price sensitive on this meal. I want the best. It sounds like this is the best food, I'm gonna go get it. But the people complaining, you know what I always find is that I have yet to find, when it comes to food or going out, etc., something where I can match my taste to someone else's taste, because I value your opinion, and this is why like in person works well. I value your opinion. You say, Vinny, this restaurant's amazing, we got to go there,
And that's mutual.
yeah, mutual. And I listen to you and I go there. You know, it's not, you know, we kind of have the same taste, but there's certain people that just, they eat McDonald's all day.
I agree.
Their review on Yelp is worthless to me.
Exactly. No. And yeah, because it's such a democratic forum in a way. And
it's too democratic. Actually.
It's too democratic, and especially talking about something as plastic surgery, right? Which is a subspecialty within medicine. It's not even a specialty, but it's a subspecialty within medicine. And but I would say those 3 things are very important. Make sure that it's American board certified plastic surgeon. 2, that you like the results or the work of your architect or the work of your artist, right? And then the 3rd one would be that you look into the reviews and see what those reviews are from. One question that I would say, and I encourage anybody who's considering plastic surgery, would be the following question. And with this one, it can differentiate from charlatans to real doctors. When you ask and you say, okay, so you have me down, sir, you recommended Dr. Salazar a tummy tuck and liposuction. Let me ask you this question. You're going to do your surgery here at La Jolla Cosmetic Surgery Center, right? Yes. If I would like to go and have that surgery with you at the hospital, do you have privileges to perform that surgery? The same exact surgery that you're proposing here, could you perform that at Scripps or Sharp or any other?
That's a gotcha for a lot of doctors, right?
And then if that's not a real plastic surgeon, then he's not going to have privileges, and then he might go, and then if you say yes, or if the doctor says yes, would you mind giving me a letter that says that you have privileges to perform the exact same surgery but in a hospital? And that's when they're not going to be able to say that.
Sure.
And if me as a board certified plastic surgeon, I get sometimes, and I would say that it's very minimal. I would love to get that question more often of, are you board certified? How many cases have you done? Have you do the, and you're not going to get offended, right? I mean, if you're the real deal, you would never be offended if you're asked.
In fact, you're like, yes, thank you for asking.
Thank you for asking. Exactly. That's exactly what I want from my patients, to be well informed.
Okay, so how many surgeries have you done in your career?
Woo! I don't keep track of that, but probably I've been involved in more than 5,000-6,000 surgeries since I started. I mean, it's funny because the other day they were asking me. So I've been for how many years have you been a doctor? So I mean, my medical diploma, it comes from 2005. So what are we, like 18 years being a doctor? I've been a surgeon since 2012. Been a plastic surgeon.
So 11 years. And how many do you do in a typical week?
It depends. It depends of the length of the surgery. Some surgeries are going to be like 3-4 hours. Some surgery is going to be only an hour. So if I have like maybe a day of like short surgeries, I can do even 5 or 6 during a day.
Wow.
Or then there's going to be other days that maybe I'm going to do a 6-hour surgery, one 6-hour and one hour. But definitely it's something that you want to go to a doctor, you want to go to a place where that's what they do, and that's what they do every day, and that's what they do multiple times a week.
Yeah.
Right.
So you practice this all the time.
Exactly.
Okay. So let's change tack a bit. You've done thousands of surgeries. Tell me about the surgeries that you refuse to do for people, that people have asked you to do and you said no.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a nice topic. So when you're talking about medicine, I think, because this is medicine, and again, people might think like, oh, plastic surgery, yes, it's also a business, right? Because you're not saving the life of a patient. You're affecting the life of a patient or impacting the life of a patient in a different way, in a very nice and positive way. but it's elective surgery. It's not needed. Does not need to happen.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. If someone's had a mastectomy and they've had cancer
as well.
you can call it elective, but it's not really. It's
right.
reparations.
It's a much needed. Yeah. So, but if you don't do it, patient's not going to die. So it's not like a life-saving procedure.
I get it.
So from like thinking about or starting there, then you have to have this dual approach. On one side, your main goal is the well-being of the patient. Yeah. That's your main goal. On the other side, of course, you want to help the patient. Mm-hmm. And whatever you're asking me to do, I'm going to try to take you to achieve that result that you want to have. But sometimes patients can ask for unrealistic results. Sometimes they can have unrealistic expectations of their surgery. You have to think about even like you have a skeleton, you have bones, you have a structure that you have underneath. So sometimes what happens is that if you think about a female patient, sometimes they will ask you for a waist this big, but their bony structure doesn't call for that. And there's no way you can take them there. So as you're having that conversation, you have to bring their expectations to the results that you can provide for them. On another hand, you have patients that might think that, oh my God, my ears are so like sticking out. And that's the one and only reason why I'm not a successful businessman. So they're attributing all of their success to those ears or the lack of success. But then once they realize that you actually do an otoplasty, an ear peening surgery, then most likely they're not going to be successful in the business world. So if you start to see that they transfer whatever visual image that they have, or you have a patient that has a perfect figure, and then they say that they're fat, and you look and you pinch how much fat they have, and you go, I'm not going to be able to remove much. You could charge the patient, you can schedule the surgery, and the patient most likely is going to be willing to pay for that. But that's where your ethic comes in and the well-being of patient, because you're submitting the patient to surgery. So they're going to have general anesthesia. They're going to have all these like recovery and everything. So that's when you say, you know what, I don't think I can take you where you want to go. I really wouldn't recommend surgery for this or for that. I think we have to reestablish our goals and then maybe talk about it. Let's come in a different date and let's do it. But then you really call off the surgery. You say like, no, this is not for you. And that goes against the business practice, right? But that's
interesting because like you got this conflict, right? In business, it's about selling as much as possible.
Exactly.
And in medicine is do no harm. Right?
Exactly.
So you got two different goals. And I think what ethics is really about knowing which comes first, right? First, do no harm, and then you can sell if you need to. And if you think it's harmful for the patient to be doing a surgery which is not needed, that's where that's where you shine with ethics.
Exactly, that's where your ethics are going to come in, and also, and the way what I tell my patients always is the only way that we can call your surgery successful. It's not what I think about your surgery or what my nurses think about your surgery. It's how much you like your result. If you love your result, your surgery was successful. If you look at the before and after pictures, you look yourself in the mirror and you like it, then it's a huge success. Yeah. It doesn't matter if I think that, oh my God, you look fantastic and look at those lines and let me take some measurements, and by measuring you, it's great. If you don't like it. So, and especially again, because you're not removing the gallbladder from your body, right? I mean, it's something that you need to see, you need to appreciate. So if I don't feel that I can take you there, I'll rather don't. I mean, let's not start the journey together, because eventually you're not going to be happy.
Yeah. Makes sense. Okay. So where do you see your industry going in the next 5 or 10 years? Like, how do you see plastic surgery evolving? Are there any new developments on the horizon? Do you ever see a situation where like these robots are doing it for you? You can use like VR headset glasses to remote operate on a patient.
Operate while I'm in PJs, in bed, and
Is any of that stuff, like what's the next big technical breakthrough on the horizon for you?
Well, I would say that plastic surgery, and speaking of like, for instance, of like if you talk about the future in robotic surgery, for instance, in plastic surgery. So actually, I wouldn't say that robotic surgery is a big disruptor in other fields,
Yeah.
like in colon surgery and urology surgery, things where you need to work in a closed environment, like deep into a space where you need the assistance of like instruments that can do stuff that we as human beings can't do. In plastic surgery, I would say, or I wouldn't say that robotic surgery is a big disruptor. Maybe at one point we're going to be reaching a point in which I just need to program the robot and I can stay at home, as you're saying. But right now, it is not a big disruptor. Technology and plastic surgery always go hand to hand. I mean, like different types of liposuction. You've heard of different types of lasers that we use. You have that's well known. One point that I would say that plastic surgery has a new horizon is integrating regenerative medicine into plastic surgery, right? I mean, to adapt that philosophy of, yes, we can do your surgery because if you have extra skin, that extra skin is not going to go away. I mean, it doesn't matter if you lose a lot of weight, if you exercise, the excess skin, we have to cut it out. We have to remove it. But if we can integrate a holistic approach into plastic surgery, I mean, not only the surgery, but also do regenerative medicine together with plastic surgery, I think that's where the industry overall is moving. And of course, as a leading or leaders in the industry in plastic surgery, La Jolla Cosmetic, we're all already looking into that, how to integrate that much better into our practices, because I think that patients not only want to look good, they want to feel good and they want to heal better. So I think that's where the future comes in plastic surgery. The immediate future, God knows what will be there in like 30, 50 years. But
what do you think are the main reasons why somebody should consider plastic surgery?
Immediately comes to my mind one of the things that I tell to my patients. We're here to help. Plastic surgeons, we're here to help. I'm not here to suggest all the 30 different surgeries I could do to you, right? I mean, I tell them not because I can do it, I should do it. Yeah. You're the most important person. You're the one who looks in the mirror, and every morning after you take a shower, you look at a body part that you don't like. And as long as I can see what you're seeing and you want to make a change, by the time you go, and again, this is something that's, I mean, we talk about it loosely, but it's something very intimate. It's something that you might not like something of your body, something of your face, something about it. And for you to take the step to go and visit a doctor, a plastic surgeon in this case, and then expose your body or expose not even, and I'm not only talking about the physical part, but the feeling part about it, the affection part about it, I dislike this from me. I mean, that is a hard step. That's something difficult. By the time you're doing that, you know exactly what you're going after. So I think that if something bothers you enough that you're considering it, go visit a plastic surgeon, board-certified plastic surgeon, chat, look at what's realistic, what's not, look at those results and see if that's something for you. And then there's always a trade-off. There's always like a little scar. We cannot do things without scars. We're good at hiding them, or we're good at making them so thin that it's harder to see. But there's always going to be a trade-off. So it's important that go get educated, chat with your plastic surgeon, make sure that your plastic surgeon spends time with you. I mean, you know me well socially, so you know that I enjoy talking and I enjoy listening to other people. So I listen to my patients, and then basically when they leave, they know exactly what they're getting into. And then is when you can make sure that they're going to be happy.
What are the top 3 surgeries you perform on a regular basis?
I would say my practice, mainly it's encompassed by breast and body. Okay. I would say probably breast augmentation would be one of the top. Another one would be breast revision, if you want to think about like breast lifting or revision, like other breast surgeries that were performed in the past. And I would say liposuction is something else that I do, and I know that we've talked about socially about this high definition liposuction, edging of the muscles of the abdomen. That's something. It's a special technique that I also do, but pretty much that's the big core of my practice.
If you have a patient or you have people who are listening in, and obviously getting to La Jolla, California is a little harder for everyone around the world, and outside San Diego and the rest of the country. Like, what are the reasons that they should think about to do it? Because they can't come and see you. You're pretty localized here. But what are the reasons for them to do it, and what are the reasons for them not to do it, especially breast augmentation and surgery? So, like, just give some recommendations to people.
Okay, so for breast augmentation, reasons to do it and not to do it. I would say, again, reasons to do it is if you have certain goals, if you have a certain body image that you want to achieve, and you share that with your plastic surgeon and it's realistic, then I would say it's a no-brainer. Of course, if you have, if you're healthy, if you have no other breast pathologies, no other breast disease, and you should go ahead and do it. Reason not to do it, as we were talking about, it would be if you're attributing your success or lack of success in the shape of your breast or the volume of your breast. Because I mean, each person, we are valuable for who we are. And that's something that sometimes you think about, like a plastic surgeon, and people might think about that, oh, that plastic surgeon is frivolous, or that plastic surgeon is vain, or no, in reality, I mean, the first thing is that, like, health starts from your soul outside, right? Whatever you're valuable for who you are, what you think, your personality. And then if there's a little something that you want to improve, that could be the volume of your breast, it's go ahead, do it. If you're thinking about you're attributing some magical results or magical changes in your life because of that, then I would say it's not the right thing for someone to do it.
Okay, great. Well, let's get into some other things. What's your favorite book?
Favorite book, Billions Vinegar. Billionaire's Vinegar. I'm sorry, Billionaire's Vinegar. I enjoyed it so much. I've read it 3 times already. It's actually about a Thomas Jefferson bottle of wine that was sold for $379,000.
Wow!
At some point was the most expensive bottle of wine ever. And I like it because I one of my passions in life is wine, and it talks about history, and it talks about history of wine, talks about like different aspects of like wine tradition, and also it injects and infuses, the creation of fake wine and how that can impact a market. And
wait, so was this wine vinegar when they opened it?
Well, it's funny because, and especially bottles from the 1700s, most likely they're going to be vinegar, as you know. But this was, I don't want to ruin the book for anybody, but it turns out that this very special bottle that actually Thomas Jefferson ordered, it was a series of bottles. It was like a case that actually some of those bottles, that's what the book talks about, how they were like found and sold and resold, but they were fake. And check out the book. You're gonna like it.
We'll link that in the show notes.
Yeah.
What's your go-to habit you think everyone should implement in their daily lives?
Really, you want me to say it?
Drink more wine.
That would be good. That would be good. No, intermittent fasting, I would say. Yeah. It's something that I do.
But you do 1 meal a day, right?
Yeah, I do a little bit of an extreme thing, but and I've been doing it for like a long time. I'm probably at this point like 20-something years. I started doing actually during training, because the training is so hard and so focused as you're doing surgeries, that then at some point I was like, okay, it's already 4:30 p.m. and I'm just gonna eat one time and that's it. But yeah, now I have 1 meal a day. I feel great, honestly. I think it works really well. Not everybody probably is. Their bodies are designed to be able to do that, because they're going to go into like a little bit of hypoglycemia at some point, or feel like a little down. But to try to do it, or try to, expand those.
I try and do at least 16-8.
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes 18-6.
Okay.
But
I think that's ideal. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a good habit.
Yeah. What's the best bit of financial advice you've ever received?
Okay. I would say to to monetize ethically, and I think I apply that every day. I feel that everything that we do in terms of an economic activity has to be profitable, and for the own health of the person that's doing it, and to be able to continue doing it and doing it in a very, very in the best way possible. So whatever activity you do, for you to profit out of it, and it's not going to come. One time I heard, just do it correctly and the money will come. And it doesn't. I mean, it takes more than that. But to perform your best and to be able to make it or turn it into a business. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Give me a common misconception that people have on life or business that you'd like to set the record straight on.
Well, I would say a common misconception. Let's direct it to medicine. Common misconception nowadays, especially, is that doctors make a lot of money. So let's fuse those two concepts, business and medicine, and that if someone's going into medicine, and that's something, I mean, to share for people that are out there looking for like a career in medicine, you really have to do it because
you love it.
You like medicine, and that's what you feel passionate about. This is not the 1980s.
I mean, the cliche is
the
that like the plastic surgeons driving Ferraris in Hollywood.
Driving
right?
Ferraris and all that. I mean, it's not out there anymore. Like, I mean, you think about like cardiac surgeons, heart surgeons. I mean, they were like one of the people that would like make most of like at the top of their tier back in the 1980s. Right now, I mean, no, doctors don't make a lot of money. I mean, you really have to do it for the right reason. The regulations are getting tighter and tighter. Reimbursements,
liability costs,
insurance liability cost, salaries.
What is a typical doctor 5 years out of
med school
make a year?
Well, it can range. I mean, and you have different specialties, so that also can range. But you can talk about anywhere from 110, 120,000.
Is that California or?
Well, and then remember California tends to be a little lower,
really,
compared to other places.
Wow. Okay.
Well, then you have like other people like neurosurgeons and like other different specialties that might be making like around 500, 400. So you have this wide spectrum. Of course, that's the reason why certain specialties are more competitive.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and again, and along the business side of things, plastic surgery, for instance, allows you or gives you the freedom of not having to depend on insurance.
Yeah.
Right. Which is something that
it's elective and
it's purely elective. It's cash based.
Do they pay for like cancer reconstruction, for example?
What happens with cancer reconstruction is that cancer reconstruction by law, breast cancer reconstruction, has to be covered by insurance.
Okay.
So in order for that to happen, especially
that makes sense. It should be.
It should be. Yeah. I think it should be, and it has to be covered until the patient is satisfied. Yes. So I think that's fair. Here in California, the way we have it is pretty much you're not going to find cash-based cancer reconstruction. I mean, all cancer reconstruction comes in through insurance because people, they pay for their insurance. They want to have it through insurance. And
but if you're not contracted to insurance, do you get those patients?
No. And it would be, since it's a
But some patients may just pay out of pocket because they want you.
Correct. Okay. So exactly. And it's something but I feel the moral obligation always when they come to me for that. I used to do a lot of breast reconstruction when I was part of insurance panels as well. Okay. So, but then after now I'm not contracted with any insurance company. all my business is cash based. And when I say cash, I mean, you can talk about financing and credit card and all that, but it's meaning it has nothing to do with non-insurance business. What you see is that you have to tell the patient, you know what, we can embark in this breast reconstruction, but it's going to be several surgeries, and all your surgeries could be covered by your insurance. So like just the same thing with, like, for instance, sometimes breast reduction, patients have like pain under their shoulders or like difficult backache and all that. So sometimes that is covered by insurance. So disclose that to your patient. But if you still want me to do it and you trust on in spite of the fact that you're going to be, it's like private school, right? Yeah. I mean, to take your kids to
you go to public school and not pay for
it. Right. You're supposed to cover by your
taxes, your
Yeah.
education, right? So
Okay, very interesting. If you can go back in time and meet one person in history, who would it be and why?
well, that person, I would say that person is still here.
Oh, that's fine.
I mean, right? I mean, not
yeah.
only in history, but it's
No,
someone that I
really.
truly admire. And if that person is watching your podcast, maybe we can make arrangements.
They
or
can shout out to me.
leave the
and
comment
Leave a
down
comment below.
below, and make sure that we can connect. I mean, someone that I truly admire, and I think it's. I mean, I admire him as an artist. I admire his career and admire how he has overcome difficulties. It's actually Andrea Bocelli. I mean,
Wow.
I would love to have a
Of
dinner
course,
with Andrea Bocelli.
Italian as well.
Right, Italian as well. I get like parliamo in italiano, and but in reality, I mean, I admire so much his work and what he does, and the passion that he puts into everything he does, and I mean, how he has overcome many adversities in life, and I would really like to learn from his process. I mean, if you can have him,
He's one of the greats, right?
And your podcast to have him here.
Okay,
would be,
Andrea, if you're out there,
fantastic.
we'd love to have you on the podcast.
Right.
I will fly to Italy to
There you
to interview him.
go. To record that in Tuscany.
Absolutely. You'll give me my translator.
I can come in.
Okay, great. So Hector, thank you so much for being on the show. How can people find you?
Well, we have go online, look for Hector Salazar MD, La Jolla Cosmetic. We have Instagram, Hector Salazar MD. At Instagram, we can probably put some of those links underneath.
They'll be in the show notes.
And,
don't worry.
fantastic! Yeah. And really, I invite all your audience, if they're interested in plastic surgery or becoming a plastic surgeon.
Yeah.
For sure, contact me, and I know that they can contact me through my social media, and I give advice all the time. If someone is interested in getting plastic surgery as a patient, of course,
Do you do
our doors are
telehealth
open.
interviews for new patients?
Yes,
So if someone's like in Texas or Florida and they want to chat to you, you can do
we do it
you
all
can
the
use
time.
on Rumi.
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
We won't talk about the other competitor, but you can use my video conferencing platform and
Yeah, that would be good. That would be really good. No, and the thing is that we do like Zoom visits all the time. Like now that
you had
Zoom,
to go say the name, didn't you?
I'm sorry. So yeah, we have to go into virtual meetings.
Yeah.
We do virtual meetings all the time,
Cool.
and after COVID and all that,
Sure.
that they started like allowing.
It's legally now.
It's legally
Yeah.
now, and actually we do it. We don't do it through Zoom. We do it through a different platform.
We have to
actually
chat
now.
after this. I need to get you onto Rumi.
There you go. So we do it all the time for patients that are away, and then what we do is that way we never operate on anybody until we examine them. I mean, that
Of
Zoom
course.
meeting, it's not going to be the final meeting.
No, that's just like a quick,
but just a quick
consult.
Exactly, quick
And
consultation.
do you charge for the initial consults?
We don't.
Okay.
We don't. We really think that patients, we have to be connected. So
Yeah.
it's a mutual thing. And I think having a nice meeting, and I can assure you this, and that's something I tell my patients, this visit, it will be the longest and most thorough medical visit of your entire life.
Mm.
And they see that. And then at the end, they go like, it was.
Oh, great. Thank you, Hector.
No, thanks so much, Vinny.
That's great.
Always a
Good having you
pleasure,
on.
and
I learned a lot.
fantastic wine. One of the best Pinots from the New World that I've had.
That's great. Well, glad to share it with you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
man.
Cheers.
Cheers.